download the speeches by different world leaders from OECD countries. He or she can see that they are saying this, and they are basically ignoring the globalization, ignoring the interdependency, and they are talking about reducing the dependency on imported oil. They are explicitly saying that. So these efforts, of course, are beginning to change the energy scene. We see that there is a tendency to impose structural change. And what I mean by that is basically they are trying to convince all countries that you need to move away from fossil fuel. And it doesn't need that oil need to be depleted before we stop using oil, but we need to keep in mind that we need to do away with oil as soon as possible. And that's very serious for Saudi Arabia and other oil-producing countries. So I don't want to engage in this. Maybe in the course of the questions we can answer some, but definitely there is a talk now of oil demand peak, that the oil demand worldwide will peak very soon, probably during this decade. And as a matter of fact, there are many studies that shows that the demand for oil has already peaked in OECD countries. So it is now the time for India, China, and others to take some measures in order to reduce the growth of their oil demand, and that will bring oil demand peak into reality. If that happens, of course, then this will be very serious for Saudi Arabia. So what should Saudi Arabia do? Of course, we cannot stay put and say, well, we cannot do anything. This is something that will come anyway. But we need to do our homework. And among these things here, I think we need to speed our economic diversification process. We have been talking about this for a long time, and in spite of all great efforts we have done so far, we still need to do more, and very, very quickly. And that's an alarm that we need to take it more serious. And I think we are taking it more serious, and the world cannot wait for us before we are forced to adapt to the reality of lower and lower oil revenues in the coming years. We have also to move quickly to be a knowledge economy and a knowledge society. Education, of course, is the primary means to achieve that, or to achieve this goal. There are major steps adopted to reform education in Saudi Arabia in order to create the right environment for young Saudis. And by the way, we all know that our population is relatively young. The average is about more than 50% of our population is less than 21 years old. So I think this can be turned into an opportunity instead of considering it as a threat to Saudi Arabia. So education is very crucial, and reform is going on. And tomorrow's session, of course, in education will give us some highlights probably on some of these reforms implemented in Saudi Arabia. But the bottom line is that we need to develop the Saudis in order to be innovative, in order to be creative, in order to catch up with the rest of the world. And I think, of course, education is the first step, but definitely there are other steps that need to be taken in order to move and to leapfrog, to follow other countries who did the leapfrogging, like Malaysia, like Korea, South Korea, etc. Those countries who really achieved a lot in the area of knowledge economy, and I think we can do that. Our great leader, I'm sorry?
You have been talking 15 minutes.
Okay, I'll conclude very soon. Well, this will take me for 1 hour, but I will just take 45 minutes. Our great leader, of course, King Abdullah, the custodian of 200 mosques, has a very clear vision of what we are supposed to do and what we are supposed to be doing to be on the top of these challenges, and certainly, and continue to achieve sustainable economic or sustained economic growth. I think his vision is guiding us toward being the top energy exporter in the world, with emphasis on producing and exporting solar energy. As far, of course, we have nothing against renewable energies. We are going to embark on developing renewables, but of course we need to evaluate some of the renewables that we need to see whether there are some environmental problems, etc., that we need to do an assessment. But definitely we will start with solar energy, and you have heard that from the King himself. You have heard it from Minister of Petroleum. You have heard it from CACS. As a matter of fact, 1 month ago, or less than a month ago, there was a signing of the contract in order to start implementing or executing the first desalination plant that run by solar power. Also, in this regard, Saudi Arabia is embarking on implementing pilot project in the area of carbon capturing and storing, CCS, where we sequester carbon dioxide from fuel oil in the stationary power plants or desalination plant, and store it in oil fields to enhance oil recovery if and when needed. King Abdullah University for Science and Technology is another example of how to create the right environment for research and innovation. It is one of the dreams of the custodian of the two holy mosques that came true. Last September it was inaugurated, and we are really very proud. This $12 million investment is really worthy, and everybody is talking about this university to be among the leading research institutes in the world. Of course, their emphasis now is on the area of energy, but in particular solar energy, and I think that will help assisting us in trying to produce solar energy, and not only producing it for domestic use, but also to export in the form of electricity. To conclude, Mr. Chairman, of course, the university will not be the only place for research. There are other universities, but above all, of course, we have the King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology, which is doing a great job these days with the new administration, with the new policies. They are embarking on really assisting in developing the knowledge economy and knowledge society. I don't want to take more, but I will leave the other issues to the questions and answers. But the challenges that are facing Saudi Arabia are huge, but we are sure that we can achieve economic diversification, and we are very lucky to have our leader, King Abdullah, is driving this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed, and sorry for interfering and telling you that your time was over, but we need to be disciplined, otherwise we will not have time for questions and answers, and I think that's an important part of the deal here. Our next speaker is Mr. Abbas, His Excellency Abbas Al-Naki, who is the Secretary General of the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries. He has previously occupied important positions in the field of energy, under Secretary of Energy at the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum in Kuwait, and also head of the Kuwaiti delegation for climate change negotiations. So he as well is very well versed in the two sides of our problem this morning, both energy and the environment. Your Excellency, please.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم